going dormant and going to sleep for the winter. Like I see that the honeysuckle is already budding. It always starts about November. Why does honeysuckle need to make leaf buds so early? And this has nothing to do with the warm year we're having. Every designation going except National Nature Reserve.
Right.
And from what I've seen of designation orders, the longer they keep that away, the better. So it's an AONB, Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty. Wildlife Trust officers told me recently, all these woods here and the valley were designated by pressure from Europe. Were not for the European Parliament, none of this would have been designated and would take no notice of its value.
And how long have you had this wood?
My grandfather acquired it in mid-1920s, so I'm the third generation. And I've got nobody to take it over from me. So the big question is what happens to it next? And I may have to give it away. Your wooden, you can see the effect on the fungi here. If you cut that lower down, we wouldn't have this spectacular show. The fungi are very scarce this year. I think we've had a very cold spell and the soil's too dry. And this is natural regeneration. We were in the midst of changing the website. So when you go on the home page, there should be a free tree branch and it's taken in a glade looking up at the sky. And that's where the trees were seeded.
Yeah.
So you can see it graphically here. The young trees are seeding.
Yeah.
And what tends to happen is something like this. I'll cut out, make very good tool handles. I noticed the way in the film, when the trees regrow from the stumps, I regard that as natural process.
Okay.
And in the film it said you're not getting the trees to regrow. To regrow here, I'll show you the way the oaks regrow.
There were a lot of trees felled in previous time in that wood, and they hadn't regrown. I think they cut them too close to the ground, perhaps.
And maybe there's not enough light.
Yeah, that's possible, yes.
Light is crucial.
Foliage.
The one danger of this, letting the ivy stay, is in wet snow, it can increase the load to the point where the tree comes over. And you see here, the soil's very shallow. See, we're on the solid rock. Limestone. Like I said, the topsoil is almost non-existent. It's quite difficult planting trees here because I'm slowly working away at these conifers to naturalise. Nothing exceeds 80 years. How long since 19? All the big trees here had what? Yes, this is the point. Your woodland must look like, this must have looked like your woodland in 1918. All the big trees were cut down here and they trashed the place and made a frightful mess. And for the first time in its history, it was abandoned. Let me come in the middle. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Oh, so yes, I hadn't thought of that last night. Yes, it's good because now what you're seeing is a woodland that's had some intervention, but the trees have started regrowing, put on girth over, is it 80 years, 90 years? This is what I call a botanically sensitive area. Nobody goes in there except on special caution. There's all sorts of flora and fungi and things in that area. Herb Paris, indicator of ancient woodland. And nobody has succeeded in germinating it from seed. But we have a local woodland owner, a Welshman I'm happy to say, and he has just recently discovered how to germinate herb Paris seed. He's actually got them growing in plant pots. So there's a very big patch of it in the back there. There's herb Paris growing along the side of the drive here. Very rich in species diversification. And here, you can see graphically how shallow the soil is over the rock. What sort of rock are you on?
It's slate.
And it's on blue clay here. And so the trench is to catch the stormwater runoff back into the pool.
That's
And it's
brilliant.
not happened this year, maybe because there's water lower down in the river, I don't know. In past years there's been a muddy trail down there, people getting a drink.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes, please. What's the time?
So is that the?
But the bluebells will survive in that situation because they've got big strong bulbs and they're much deeper in the ground than the stitchwort. And ferns, of course, have to have some humidity or they don't thrive. So they're very good indicators. But you see, we cut the top off a tree there. Sorry, my eye is that a puzzle?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Buzzards nested in the wood one year, but never again, and they successfully raised young. And what? The place was a mess. They were flying up and down the road, and there were bones and things littered everywhere. They didn't pick up their rubbish. And they used the ride, where we parted from Alison, to teach the young to fly. The noise was stupendous. My visitors said, "Oh, can't you get rid of those buzzards?" I said, "No, it's a privilege.
Yes.
It's a privilege to sit here and hear them teaching the young how to
Fantastic.
fly."
If you like, amenity and commercial wood, or amenity wood where wood's extracted for an economic purpose.
I think there are very few woodlands in Britain with any commercial viability. The survey was done by the County Landowners Associations some years ago. They surveyed 10 woodlands. 3 were making a supposed profit, but they couldn't justify it. 3 openly acknowledged they were losing money. And yet out of 10, only 2 were making a profit. And something like this is hopeless. It's an easy way of losing money to try and do anything commercial here. This was, I found this like this. That's a negative feature where there's been excavation. And this is the positive side from the excavation. Well, the only thing everybody agrees on is that it's a man-made feature. And here, we're right in the base beds of the limestone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why they bothered with the trial exploration here? Because the minerals are not in the base beds,
Yeah.
they're higher up.
Yeah.
Bill Leonard is the Oliver Rackham of Wales, and he's written this book on woodlands and forests in Wales.
Okay.
And he traces the known history. Right, what would you like to talk about that you've seen this morning, which perhaps relates to your own woodland?
Okay. Well, it's something that we've chatted as we've gone through the wood. But the use of this sycamore as a way of protecting the other trees in the woodland from squirrel damage.
Yes, it's been very effective. I must have come across it simply by observing. I'm very much influenced by Darwin's techniques of observing and thinking about things. And I must have observed that where there had been grey squirrels, there weren't any more. But that's only half the problem. I've stopped the grey squirrels from ring barking simply because they prefer to eat sycamore. But as far as protecting the young chicks in the nest is concerned, I've no means of gauging the effect on that.
Breach trust of ornithology. So it's a few pages long, but it's a study about the impact of grey squirrels on bird population.
It's an interesting read.
Yeah,
Right.
that's all. Yeah, it doesn't.
Can I take this?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's right on the topic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have they found any solutions?
They've pretty much found that as for general numbers and population, they don't actually have an effect on most of the species. There's 2 species, which is turtle dove and jay, which
Have a negative.
have a negative effect, but all the others in the study. I don't know if it's a 5-year study, is it?
I
I
can't
can't
remember.
remember how long the study was. but-
Somebody flying over.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
But anyway, it's an interesting read to, you know,
Yes.
a
I
long
wanted to
winter's
get-
evening.
I wanted to get us to look at the woodland in a broader brush.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I found a very useful technique is to regard the woodland as a jigsaw.
Yeah.
Each piece of jigsaw is a different habitat.
Yeah.
So it might be that the soil's similar, but the trees are completely different, so that makes two pieces in the
Yeah.
jigsaw. And you'll find on the website a page describing how to do this.
Yeah.
This woodland here is so incredibly complicated, folded in on itself.
Yeah.
But I tried it in somebody else's wood and it was fine.
Yeah.
So it clearly identified the bits of ancient woodland as distinct from the woodland where there were large trees.
Yeah.
So management had been different and that had resulted in a different woodland structure.
Yeah.
We want to get people away from being species focused. If they create the right habitat, they'll have the species.
Yeah, well that's kind of a positive thing for old Gough, isn't it? Because it's understand at the moment it's coming from a very blinkered point of view, but understanding that the wood doesn't just have to be
Who's this?
the wood, our wood, old Gough. It's been managed in the past very much in a sort of like a blinkered. This is what we want from the wood, blah 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 blah. But it's turning it more into a whole wood rather than a sort of sectional wood. I mean, at the moment there's a section of silver birch which is only silver birch, and then there's a section of conifers which is only conifers. So it's very monoculture in the scheme of the whole wood, and trying to make it more like this. So you've got lots of different species, and the wood is working as it should.
Said a bit this morning. I'm learning the ways of talking, of working in harmony with nature.
Yeah,
And I want to give nature the lead and I follow.
yeah,
So if
exactly.
nature needs a helping hand,
Yeah,
progresses the woodland in that direction, that's what I do. So if we get habitats right, that should draw in other species and increase numbers.
I just want to ask, can I ask you a question?
Please.
About what do you think about projects such as the one that's happening in our wood at the moment, where a group gets a grant and carries out a variety of activities in the woodland, which brings in a lot of extra human impact on the wood? And what do you think of it? Is it beneficial or harmful or non-impact?
To be quite
there's
blunt,
yes.
I'm not very much in favour of Homo sapiens.
So I feel that too, but it's
we're
very...
too numerous for our own good.
Yes,
At a stroke, your woodland or my woodland,
would be better
all
off
problems,
without them.
not just better, all problems could be solved by removing the Homo sapiens.
Okay, you just mentioned about the squirrels having a negative effect on the bird population, and my response to that is that human beings, Homo sapiens, has had a much more serious effect on the bird population, not only in this wood but worldwide.
This morning I said how I'd use volunteers, but it was all the sort of work that volunteers could reasonably carry out, taking down old fences and that sort of thing. But then, purely by chance, I started making a database of all recorded fauna and flora here. I've now got over 800 species recorded of fauna and flora. Nearly all of it done by volunteers, enthusiasts on moths or insects or whatever. It was an immensely illuminating experience for me. No idea these things of such incredible beauty in this woodland. And it incorporated this considerable volunteer base because it's species focused. So somebody would be only interested in dragonfly. The classic way to identify a bird enthusiast is they stand with their binoculars looking up into the treetops and never notice that at their feet they're standing in the middle of a patch of the most superb flora, and vice versa. Botanical enthusiasts are completely unable to identify birdsong. So this is incredible specialism. By building a database, it's fantastic what it tells them. For example, the database lists all the things that you expect to find here but haven't been recorded. So on the butterfly one, you remember Rob Whitehead? He was butterfly conservation porter, recorder for Denbighshire and Flintshire. He walked around with me and was able to tell me which of those butterflies he would expect to find here. So now if I see a butterfly I don't know, I look down his list and sometimes there it is. Another time I've been very sceptical about the little owls being used. People say, yes, I've heard a little owl. Well, if it's somebody of amateur enthusiasm, tend to take these things with a pinch of salt. If it's somebody who's got a reputation to back them up, then they take more notice. No bird watcher had said to me, I've seen a little owl. Well, would you believe it? You know, in the mornings on Radio 4 they have the tweet.
Yes, tweet of the day.
Tweet of the day, that's it. Well, they had the little owl. And next morning, I haven't got out of bed, I'm lying with my head on the pillow, and I heard the little owl. It was over in this corner somewhere. And it was exactly the same call as the pig on Radio 4. So I've got this fabulous tool now. What I intend to do is to put a copy in the county archives as a record of what was the fauna and flora of this valley in the 21st century. In front of my house, over there, I picked up a flint tool when I was digging the garden. I like to think, and I took it to Liverpool Museum, and they dated it between, I think they said it was between 4,000 and 6,000 years, or 2,000 and 4,000 years, anyway, BC. The thought that some man, presumably a man, that's my prejudice, had been standing there all those years ago and either thrown the tool away because it was finished or dropped it and couldn't find it again. Is there a lot of variation? Have you got some areas which have got quite well developed shrubs? Difference in aspect? North and south facing?
It's got different. It's on the side of a hill. So one side has got a more southerly.
One side's north. One side's north facing, isn't it? As you go around past the Petcram.
Yeah.
That's north, so it's kind of southeasterly facing around that bit. You get the sun on there quite a lot, don't you?
Yeah. So
one at the top you get the sun.
Yeah.
By the Gulf.
One side catches the sun, the other is a lot cooler and damper.
It's surrounded by, like on one side, this side, it's surrounded by kind of like lots of palm trees, a woodland. It's very
Dead
extensive.
plantation, completely dead plantation.
Very dead. You walk in there and it's like you're in Grimm's fairy tales or something. You just feel like this is the forest I don't want to be in. Completely silent and complete.
What sort of conifers are they?
I assume they're like Sicker spruce or something. It's complete cover canopy, black, dark,
What's
nothing
the
on the
soil
ground.
like?
It's
Sandy.
just, well, yeah,
And
Brown earth?
yeah,
yes.
with like just
Because it
kind
might
of,
be Douglas fir then.
yeah, could be.
very,
I'm
very
not an
dry
expert.
and like needles on the floor.
But totally dead, nothing
Totally
in there.
dead. And then you walk up and there's a golf course on the other side. Today we went up into the golf course, up to the top, and this man came in this little cart that they ride around in.
Yes.
And we started talking to him, but he was realising they've got a lot of trees that they planted
Yes.
50 years ago. And it was right before we had the meeting. And so I asked him, your trees look really fantastic and nice. What do you do to them? And he said, nothing. We just let them be. We just let them do what they want.